An externality is any cost or benefit accruing to a third party outside of a market transaction. Policies work to address certain externalities. Let's see how educated the public is about this very important economic issue.
Do you know what an externality is?
I've heard of it before, but I wouldn't be able to tell you
Okay.
what it is right now.
Thank you. Can you explain what an externality is?
I cannot.
Do you know what an externality is?
Nope.
Do you know what an externality is?
No, I have no idea what
What
that
is an externality?
Something that's on the outside,
Okay.
I guess.
Perfect.
Something external.
Do you know what an
Yes.
externality is?
No.
Externality is like a factor that is like not generally accounted for, that like occurs like in in terms of business, like that doesn't directly affect like the sort of plan or objective that you're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm Beth Morsra with KSBY News in Salinas Valley. We're here today to bring you updates on policymaking decisions that are being made today regarding the nitrate levels in the groundwater here in Salinas Valley. Before we dive in, I'll give you a little recap of what we've already learned. The people in the community are being negatively affected by the actions of the farmers and the nitrates in the water. This situation is referred to as an externality because it is a benefit or a cost, but in this case a cost, to a third party that is not part of the market transaction. Growers of strawberries and lettuce are overusing fertilizers with nitrogen. The crops that are fertilized can only absorb so much nitrate, leaving the rest of it to be excess and leached into the groundwater. The contamination affects many people living in the area because the levels are much higher than is safely to be consumed. The effects lead to people contracting baby blue syndrome and increased rates of miscarriages and pregnancies. This is not only a health problem but also a nominal issue for them as well, because it increases medical bills and more sick days add up to incurred costs, while these people also lose income. At this point in time, these farmers are not taking into consideration the external costs to the community. That is why we are here today at this forum. We're here today with Farmer Deck, who represents the majority of Salinas farmers. He is a supporter of the traditional farming practices in the area. That's done.
Hey, Farmer Deck here. I've grown lettuce on my land for 40 years. And my father did the same before he handed his lettuce operation down to me. Nitrate-containing fertilizers are an essential part of my production, and one of the main reasons my farm has had such high lettuce yields for so many years. Asking me to change my production practices that have been used for so long is simply unfair and impractical. Either reducing my fertilizer usage or switching to a more environmentally friendly fertilizer will simply affect my revenue too much. Under my current conventional fertilizer practices, it costs me $657 per acre to apply my nitrogen-based fertilizer. If I were to switch to an organic fertilizer, that cost would increase to about $796 per acre. This increase in marginal cost of $139 per acre is not something I will be able to undertake and still run a profitable business. I have a family which depends on my farm income to survive. I know it is important to keep the environment in mind and clean up the Salinas Valley groundwater somehow, but farmers should not be solely held responsible for this very complex issue. All I ask is that policymakers please keep this in mind when you make your policy decision. That is all. Good night.
It was really great to hear from Farmer Deck and his perspective on everything. What a real class act. Next up, we have Dr. Tyler Flesner from UC Davis Center of Watershed Services. Thousands of years of experience. He lives and breathes water and first-hand knowledge studying effects of nitrate levels in the groundwater.
Yes, I'm Tyler. I'm a scientist from UC Davis. We spent many years over my life researching water and the effects of excessively high nitrate levels. Now, Farmer Dex here says he needs his fertilizers, inorganic fertilizer, in order to achieve high yields. Well, if you've looked at a lot of the studies, all the organic farmers have been able to achieve almost as high yields as conventional. They do so because they follow sustainable practices that maintain the fertility of their soil, so they don't have to use all the fertilizers. So Farmer Deck, stop treating your soil like dirt. I spent a lot of years compiling a lot of data on nitrate use in California. If you look at some of the data over the past 7 years, the amount of nitrogen-containing fertilizer used has skyrocketed. Since the 1970s, the amount of fertilizer sold every year in California has exceeded 600,000 pounds. 600,000 tons every year. 600,000 tons every year. That is a lot of fertilizer. And the use has just been going up over the years. Back in 1973, lettuce and strawberry growers were applying an average of 159 pounds per acre. But nowadays that's been up to 193 pounds per acre. And a lot of this fertilizer has been causing excessively high levels of nitrates in the groundwater. In the Salinas River, nitrate levels have been documented as high as 50 to 120 milligrams per liter. The scientists recommend that nitrates in the water should not exceed 10 milligrams per liter in order to be safe drinking water. Of course, a lot of nitrates have been getting dumped into the water. Either it'll still be in the soil because the plants can't absorb all of it and then it'll seep down to the groundwater, or some of it will run off into the rivers and streams. Of course, all this excess nitrogen in the ecosystem causes a lot of negative environmental effects and negative health effects. A lot of people in Salinas are getting sick from baby blue syndrome because they are drinking contaminated groundwater. We will definitely need to be taking this into consideration and considering a policy to address this issue. That is all.
That was great to hear from Dr. Tyler Flesner, and now we have a full perspective of both sides of the spectrum. Next up, we have Congressman Joe, who will be giving us some solutions to this problem and help us decide on a policy.
Hi, I'm Congressman Joe, and based off the findings and research from Farmer Connor and Dr. Flesner, I've compiled what I believe is to be the best policy option. So we must keep in mind that complete elimination of nitrates is not economically possible. So our best solution includes designing and operating irrigation and drainage systems to reduce deep percolation, the main cause of nitrate infiltration in the groundwater. And we should also better manage crop plants to capture more nitrogen and decrease deep percolation, and manage nitrogen fertilizer to increase crop nitrogen use efficiency. And our final one is to improve storage and handling of fertilizers to increase off-target discharge. And our main goal, or what we're going to do to make sure that this happens, is we're going to implement a levying tax on the use of nitrogen. And this is just one way to simultaneously reduce nitrogen and to raise revenues to fund alternative water supplies, or to alternatively provide the means to clean up the current water supplies. And currently the sale of nitrogen is not subject to California sales tax. The economic model is run under normal conditions that this tax relief is removed, and the purchase of nitrogen is subject to normal 7.5 California sales tax.
Congressman Joe has just described a policy, a tax on nitrogen fertilizer, to address this ongoing issue. This policy that he has just proposed is an example of the compensation principle. According to the compensation principle, the policy is justified if those who benefit can more than compensate those who are incurring the costs. In this case, the people who are incurring the costs are the farmers. The extra money that pay for fertilizer and the reduced profit margins that they will see as a result. However, we will be seeing a lot of benefits in terms of mitigating all the negative effects of nitrates in the water and in the environment, and in terms of improving public health and improving the quality of the groundwater that people drink. Policymakers will likely conclude that these benefits will outweigh the costs incurred by the farmers, and therefore the policy will be justified. While ideally, we'd like to follow a policy that follows Pareto improving, one where the farmers do not have to incur any cost whatsoever, and no one will be made worse off. This type of policy is unrealistic and very difficult to implement in real life. Now we'll hear from Farmer Jack to see what the farmer's perspective on this policy is.
It really hurts the policy decision that Congressman Joe has come up with. I think that this tax unfairly targets farmers for something that we did not directly create. I love producing lettuce, but at this point, I think I'm going to have to go into another trade. This tax of 7.5% will provide me with too many additional costs, and there's just no way I can function in this economy. It is sad that this decision has been made, but I will live with it and do something different with my life. That is all. Wish me luck.
While we are well aware that the proposed policy does not make everyone happy, it maintains that farmers use nitrogen at a socially optimal level. This ensures a harmonious system between residents, farmers, and environmentalists alike. We can't have a system where we just favor one person. Everyone's gonna have to take one for the team on this one, which is why the policy presented is the best possible option at this point.
Well, it has been a successful day coming up with a resolution for this long-lasting problem that we've had in the Salinas Valley. We heard from Farmer Deck, Dr. Tyler Flesner, and Congressman Joe. And it's just great to have finally a resolution, and now we can move on and have less problems in the area. Thank you very much.